Good morning. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. It is Monday, May 19th, 2014. It is now 8:30. I'm going to ask Selectman Alice Tracy to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Paul. I'm going to take the privilege, unless there's any objection, of inviting Veronica Wallace to the table in regard to the 375th weekend coming up. Weekends, should I say?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We want to get her to work on time,
Yeah.
so.
I just thought 386 North River Street, Guilford. I just thought I'd take the opportunity to update the board on the activities of the 375, especially the next couple of weeks. 2 signature events are taking place beginning on May the 31st. It's Guilford in the Civil War, a tribute. That's Saturday, 11 to 7. I think the biggest thing to advise the board is I have no idea how many people are coming. We could have
Either does the board.
Yeah, we could have 1,000 people, we could have 5,000 people. It's certainly not for a lack of advertising and a lot of work that we've put into it. You'll begin to see things changing. The staging will be going up the week leading into the 31st. The buntings will begin to appear all around the green. We have 2 Civil War reenactment groups coming in on Friday. There'll be plays all afternoon, and it'll culminate in a concert at 5 o'clock here on the green.
Friday. This is Friday night.
No, this is Saturday, May
Saturday.
31st.
Okay.
It's a
So everything
singular
one day.
Yep,
Okay.
singular one-day event. Parking will be in 3 parking lots: Beth Temple, and then the Thomas Griswold parking lot, and then here in the municipal parking lots. We have some parking with St. George's for the larger vendors. Fortunately for some and unfortunately for us, there's a wedding. So St. George's was not available to us, only a certain section.
I'm not going to comment on that, but
We'll have Abraham Lincoln, there's a town crier, there's horse-drawn carriages up and down Park Street. Thank you very much for allowing the library to close Saturday. We appreciate that, because that really, if it were open, it kind of really impacted the amount of room that the horse and carriages would have. There'll be a hay carriage going down Boston Street. We've been in touch with police and fire and EMS, so everybody's on board. Everybody's been cooperative. Like I said, I think the biggest concern we have is we don't know how many people we're going to get, and we don't know what the weather's going to do. The following weekend, June 6th, 7, and 8, Friday the 6th, at 4 p.m. is the mural unveiling, which is at Sullivan Drive leading into the East River Preserve parking lot. The Guilford High School kids will unveil their mural, which is on both sides of the bridge. Followed by June the 7th, Guilford Garden Club is going to dedicate the Rollwood Park, which is at the corner of the Stonehouse Lane. That's from 1 to 2 p.m. And then, as you all probably are aware now, the Covenant Stone has been brought into Guilford, and it is in its resting place. And so there'll be a reenactment, the signing of the reenactment of the Covenant on Saturday at 2 p.m. For those watching, the stone weighs 27,000 pounds. That was the single biggest question that I've gotten is, how much does that thing weigh?
And the crane operator that lifted it was a woman.
That's right, that's right.
not herself.
And then Sunday, June 8th, at 4 o'clock, 4 to 7:30, down at Chittenden Park is the opening of the New England Trail. And throughout that whole weekend, both the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, are various activities related to the Trails Day. So I have the Trails book to hand out to you guys. If you'll notice, Guilford takes up the centerfold, which is really nice, all about the opening of the trail. And then there's 2 pages of activities. The trail books are available here in the Selectman's office, the library, Parks and Rec, I think, have some. So there's all sorts of activities going on. There's nature walks, paddles, things like that. You have one? Okay. And then later on in the summer, there'll be an extended fireworks show. That's July the 12th. Followed by the 13th will be an interfaith service on the green. And then culminating finally in the Citizens Fair Parade, where we'll have our 5th signature event, the Fife and Drum Muster. And all of that, we have the funds. We've been able to raise all the funds to put this all on. And we're very grateful to our sponsors and regular citizens and everybody that have helped us put it together.
Thank you.
Veronica, since you're here on camera, could you tell the folks what the events are going to be on the Saturday, the 31st, like how that's going to work, maybe, since you have...
Well, it'll begin at 11 o'clock. You'll see a town crier. He'll go around announcing activities. The reenactors are on the green, and they will be going all day, 11 to 5. They'll talk about skills and things that were going on in the Civil War at the time. The plays start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and go till 5. They are what they call vignettes, and they're little stories from the Guilford soldiers. That's why we chose the Civil War, was because of Guilford's contribution to the Civil War. And it's letters, all the information was derived from letters that these soldiers wrote back to their families. And so they're reenacting these stories out in the Christ Science Church. And there'll be tour of museums. There's going to be, people have seen the signs on some of the homes where a Civil War soldier lived. They will be Dennis Cullerton is going to lead a historical tour throughout the day on these homes and the soldiers that lived there. There's an open air market. There'll be how they played baseball. The precursor to our baseball was Civil War type baseball will be going on, and lots of activities for families, and all of it will be at no cost.
Great.
And then at 5 is the concert.
Yes, and then 5 will be at the concert.
Now, this is all on your website.
Yes, all the
Okay.
information's on our
You
website.
might want to mention that, and we do have a link on the town website to
Yep.
the 375th.
www.guilfordct375.org.
Okay. Great.
Okay, and
Thank
I
you very
thank
much.
you very much for all the support.
And you-
We appreciate it.
You and the committee have done an excellent job.
Thank you.
Yeah. What?
When did we kick out East Guilford? Do you know?
All right,
Before the Civil War?
continue with public forum regarding any item on the agenda limited to 3 minutes. I don't see anybody wishing to address the board, so we'll move on. Item 3, approval of the minutes of May 5th, 2014, which was a regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any additions or corrections?
Yeah, thank you for putting me on the board for 10 years, but I've only been on it for 5. So you can change that. And the only other question on the...
It seems like 10.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes it does. The recommendation for a townwide policy, it was unclear who is going to spearhead that.
I think the Board of Selectmen is going to
Okay.
spearhead that.
Okay.
I've yet to put together
Okay.
a committee, and I would welcome volunteers from this board to serve as a subcommittee for that, okay?
I was afraid of that.
Yeah, I know. You asked the question. So if you would just contact me later, that'd be great, okay? Any other additions or corrections, comments? All right, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. Item 4, Finance Director Sheila Valana. 4.1, we'll start with the monthly reports for April. Morning.
Morning, Sheila.
Good morning. Okay. Get myself together here. So, we have 2 months to go. The reports are as of April, as we know. And I spent a little time, kind of looking in depth at, the revenues. And one of the things you're going to notice is that tax collections are very strong. Trying to get my report as we speak, but
Take your time.
I always share with Gary. Thank you, Gary, for being prepared. Tax collections are at 99.97%, which leaves us with $25,291 to collect. Last year at this time, we collected 99.33, which was about 500,000 to collect. So I questioned that. I spent some time with the tax collector last week, and we looked at the collections. It's the current collections that are stronger than last year, and we don't see any reason to think that that's not accurate. Occasionally, because it's not an automated system between the tax office collections, their system, and our system, we manually get cash receipts and we book the journal entries to the financial system. There couldn't be a mistake, but we went through and checked, and we believe that that's correct, and that's very good news.
With the resolution of the problem that we had in North Guilford of over 100,000 in theoretically receivable money have affected the ratio?
That may affect, I don't know exactly what the current year levy was for that property, but as far as any back taxes that were outstanding, that would affect the receivable,
But not the
current year.
Okay.
And we don't really, that receivable is reported on the tax collector report in the annual financial
Okay.
statements, but it doesn't really, we never really get into
Okay,
that,
yeah,
no.
without knowing how the numbers are.
I think
Okay.
that we may have been on the conservative side when we put our budget together, because as a percent of her levy, it's still consistent with last year, but as a percent of budget, we are almost at 100%, so that's good.
Yeah.
Good news. Then on the state side, for revenue, we should probably see about $200,000 more in revenue. About half that is from the Board of Ed. There was a prior year, every year there's a prior year adjustment on ECS, and this year it was in our favor, and it's about 60 to 70,000, so that's going to help us. And the transportation grant for 30,000, we did receive it. We didn't budget for it. And then there was some on the town side. There was the grants and aid that were budgeted after we put our budget together by the state. So we got $75,000 that we didn't anticipate. So basically, that comes out to about 200,000 there.
I just like to comment on us being very conservative on our revenue budget concerning the state funding. Because Guilford, by charter, has to put its budget together so early, much earlier than just about every town in the state, we have no feel for what the state's going to do. So we use our best guess, if you call it, and just rely on the prior year with the information that we receive either from OPM or from CCM. So it's not that we're being extremely conservative and trying to under-budget revenue. We just don't know because our budgets are put together so early, and that's dictated by our charter.
Right. And then the 75,000 was really a last-minute state line item
That's
as
correct,
well.
yeah.
So on the local revenues, basically, except for, unfortunately, I say this all the time, the finance interest income, which I have no control over, that's low. Everyone else seems to be pretty much on target or will exceed their budget. I spoke with the Director of Youth and Family Services, and she expects to be at about 130,000. That's 40,000 over their budget. Town clerk is right on target. Fire department. So I think we're going to probably see a
You're
surplus
okay.
there too.
Yeah.
So revenue is actually very strong at probably $350,000 over budget.
Joe, if I can just supplement your comment.
Sure.
We may under budget because we don't know what the state's gonna do, but it's not as if we're gonna spend it because it
That's
comes
right.
in.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
like, okay, there's an extra 75,
Right.
let's find some way to
Right.
spend it. It goes into surplus or however it's used, and, you know,
Unlike other towns.
the following year, the taxpayers benefit from that. So it's,
Exactly.
you know, it's the conservative way to do it, and
Good point.
So that's,
Any questions from the finance director on revenue?
okay, Gary, I'm gonna hand this back to you. Okay. On expenditures, we are obligated at 83.9% versus 86.3% last fiscal year at the end of April. I recalculated the storm expenditures. To make it a little more clear, that's usually a little bit fuzzy when we look at this. So if you adjust for, you add back the storm expenditures as if they didn't happen to the budget balance, at the end of this year, we would be at 84% expended, and last year, 85.08% expended. So that's good news as well. To take a look at the projections for the end of the year, I looked at payroll first, which is what I usually do. And I'm anticipating between I'm gonna be conservative, $150,000 savings in payroll. That includes the new contracts for the police, and I know that you're gonna be discussing the
Wage.
wage contract today, so. There were savings in certain departments because, of
Contracts.
of contracts, and also because of, in the police department, for example, some unanticipated retirements
Yeah.
for the year, so. We're looking at about 150,000 there. The contingency at, I always think 175,000 will likely partially be used to cover an overage in the legal account. But at this point, we didn't ask you for a transfer until we kind of get a feel for where we're gonna be at the end of the year. But we will use part of that. But there will be savings in reserve for personnel, because we set aside some funds that we didn't need, but we will still have to keep some aside for GEA if that's not settled by the end of the year.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna factor that into the projection at all for savings. We're just gonna assume that we're gonna roll that over. We're probably looking at another $100,000 savings in non-personnel. So if you take the 150 on personnel plus 250, plus another
Right.
350, assuming contingency is totally expended, which it won't be, we're probably close to 600,000
Savings.
Surplus.
surplus. And then, I don't wanna jump ahead, part of that will probably be used if this board agrees and the Board of Finance towards the medical benefits.
Yeah.
Right.
And we'll talk about that after,
Yeah.
but I kinda wanted to give you a feel for at least where I think we're gonna be, and this is rough. I'm gonna, work on it in detail. I have to look at encumbrances, the department's canceled already quite a few. We have $100,000 less than we did last year at this time. So we're getting them to close out encumbrances, but until I really know what they're gonna expend, I can't give you a really tight
Yeah.
figure, but by next month I probably will.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on expenses? Okay. Do we move on to the dreaded medical?
Well, we could. We actually had
Actually, wasn't a bad
a
one.
better month
Yeah.
than prior months, but we have been talking for a year about transferring funds in to cover the deficit from last year. And one of the things we were waiting for is for the audit to be finalized and to kind of know where we were, because we didn't want to reduce our undesignated fund balance. I think we talked about keeping undesignated at 6%. It's important the rating agencies look, that's the first thing they look at is undesignated, and we're planning a rating presentation in end of July, early August for our August bond. So it's going to be really important that we show them that, you know,
Solvency,
we've
yeah,
built
that
fund
way,
balance over
yeah.
the past 5 years, that it's really been increasing every year. In a way, they look at the internal service fund together with general fund, but in cases when that's a strong balance, I will stress that, but when it's a deficit balance, I won't stress it as much. But I still think they were it was very positive for them that we had, I think it was 2006, a deficit reduction plan. So that's just as strong for them as funding it all at once. They don't want to see you just being, just say, well, we'll fund it for the sake of funding it, but maybe hurting the general fund. So I think that if we keep, this is my recommendation, and you can discuss it, if we show a 4-year plan to them where part of it is last year, and it's about 100,000 or so that we take from last year's fund balance, because part of it was last year, and possibly 200 this year if we are at a certain level, if we keep the 600,000. And actually the Board of Ed will most likely show a surplus. I don't really want to say what their number is, but I've heard that it's a number that they usually have every year or so, over 100,000, but they haven't
Slight surplus,
reported that
yeah.
yet. So I would probably do 100,000 from fund balance, or Joe, if you want to keep it where it not to exceed, so fund balance doesn't drop below 6%, and then 200 from this year, and then 150 and 150. I think they will be very happy with that, just as happy as if we funded the whole 600,000
Great.
right now.
Do you want to comment, and Mitch, you're welcome to join us at this point, about the decision we made on the stop loss going into July, which is the next year?
Well, Mitch is welcome to.
Mitch just pointed to you, meaning
That's fine.
you're going to say it.
I will be happy to, but
Okay.
I know Mitch always likes to comment.
No, go ahead.
It's a good thing. We decided to reduce the stop loss to $150,000. And we did a lot of analysis on it, and it's clearly, well, what we did is we looked at our claims for the last 5 years, and I don't think you should look at it a year at a time. So if we use the same ratio of premium increase from 150 to 225 that we would have now, and we would apply that toward the claims for the last 5 years, clearly it would have been a winner to, well, I don't want to say it would have been. It will be in our best interest to do the $150,000. It's a savings. It's a lot more in premium, but it's if the trend is there, the same type of trend. There were years where we would have not, we would have lost, but there were more years that we would have gained. So
I mean, shows
Still-
we're looking at possibly reducing the overall budgeted amount by close to $200,000 over what it was. And the suggestion of the first selectman, we looked into the stop loss on the prescriptions as well. And it looks like we're going to roll that in, and that's going to be also a significant potential savings. It all depends on what the claims are. But certainly as we budget, it'll help our budget going into next year, and certainly help us. And the prescription drugs is especially important because there's a lot of new prescriptions on the market. I forget the exact name. They're not designer drugs, but they're like premium drugs.
I was thinking designer.
Yeah, but they're
New, expensive.
That can be can set us back hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially with a stop loss on the prescriptions, which we never had before. That will be very helpful to us, especially in terms of our budgeting. So we'll know we should have better control as we go forward.
And we've gotten some, I think, some pretty reliable information from our consultant. And the question that we asked was, because these claims start at 0 July 1, because it's a new policy, with the catastrophic claims, what is the feeling on the prognosis with the patients who, are in that category, unfortunately in that category? What are we going to be looking at into the next year? And it would be that we'll continue to have a burn rate like we've had this past year. And I want to stress, and we don't know who they are, we don't want to know who they are. The insurance company knows, and let's the consultant know, and that's where it ends. So we used that as part of our analysis, saying, okay, if somebody has reached $300,000 in claims, what is the anticipation that they're going to do it again next year? And there, in some cases, they would, and that was part of our thinking. And the thing about drugs, what I learned, and thank God not having to go through this on a personal nature, is that some of your chemo is considered prescription,
Yeah.
and some is considered medical, depending on where it's administered. So, something I learned. So that's what I suggested, that we looked at the prescription part too, and it wasn't, I don't want to say it was a nominal increase, but it wasn't a big increase to include it into the stop loss. Okay?
I will send all of you the analysis. It's sort of interesting to look at the last 5 years and the projections. So,
Does some of this involve demographics? As our employee population, I mean, is it in fact increasing in age and therefore more likely to be ill or not? I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
Gary, don't forget that, we're looking at a total population which includes the Board of Ed.
Right.
So you have, the teachers, both young and old, you have the
Right.
employees, both young and old. I think what it's really reflecting is the increasing cost of healthcare, and also the increasing amounts of, as I said before, people that are on certain prescriptions and certain medications and certain procedures that may not have happened in the past. And so it's all reflective. Look, it's a big portion of our budget. We're just trying to have some predictability about it. I mean, the claims are going to be the claims, but we'll have some more prediction as to how much it's going to cost us going forward.
And it's not only claims for people who are seniors, like Mitch said, we have a lot of young teachers, and pregnancies are in there. And sometimes pregnancies are very
Complicated.
difficult and complicated and require a lot of treatment. So it's the whole gamut of
it's a combination of the trends, the actuarial trends in the medical industry as a whole, and then our actual history for the last 18 months.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mitch.
Yep.
We'll call you back later.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Any more questions from the Finance Director on the April financial reports?
You're not going to make a transfer recommendation today.
Yeah,
I
we
am
got it on
making
here.
one.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
that's
we
the
got it on
next
here,
one.
okay. Why don't we go to Ford, Carl, you had some?
No.
Okay. 4.2, discuss and take possible action to authorize the first selectman to execute the network access service agreement between the state and the town pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 4D-80 in anticipation of being awarded the Nutmeg Network Grant.
I'll move.
Secondly.
Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 4.3, consider and take possible action on preliminary year-end transfers, and that's what we're going to make. That one transfer you want to make.
Okay, at this point, I'd just like to make one transfer, and that has to do with the police contract that was settled on March 19th. And I did speak with the police chief, and we almost felt for a minute that we almost might not need the $145,000 that we're gonna request because of some savings in his department. But I think we all agree that as far as for budgetary purposes, it's better to have, when you compare year over year, the actual budget amount
That
You're gonna
document,
transfer, and then he could have, end up having
a
a
surplus.
surplus.
that document is in your finance package, by the way. It was not in the Board of Ed package. Well, move the mic. It's in your finance package, okay? Sorry, Mike.
Okay, so basically, I'm asking for you to recommend to the Board of Finance a transfer of $145,036 from reserve for personnel. That covers year 2 of the contract. Year 1 of the contract was fiscal 13, and those funds were set aside in reserved fund balance. And that doesn't require a transfer from, that's approved by the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. That's just a transfer within fund balance. That amount, for your information, is $64,132. It's a little less than we anticipated, for the reason that there were employees who were paid as of June 30th and that would have received retro pay if they were still on the payroll at the time the contract was executed. And that actually saved us some money, so they did not get their retro pay that we had set aside. So what we're asking for is, for this fiscal year, actually is, covers the increases for 2 years, $145,036.
Okay, do I have a motion
So moved.
to recommend to the Board of Selectmen to?
Board of Finance.
Board of Finance, we are the selectmen, aren't we? Yeah,
So moved.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. You gonna hang around the executive session?
Yes,
Okay.
did you want to take a vote on the internal service fund?
No, why don't you send that information out, and then we'll digest it and get it for next
Okay.
month, okay? And I'll tell the Board of Finance the
Okay.
same thing, okay? Item 5, Park and Rec Director, Rick Maynard. I see he's joined by Terry Holland-Buckley, who is the Senior Coordinator. Consider and take possible action to execute a memorandum of intent regarding the purchase of 3 park and recreation buses that had been previously leased by the Greater New Haven Transit District. Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, the cover letter we sent out, I think explains it, but the Greater New Haven Transit District for years, if not at least a couple of decades, have been leasing the buses to us. We got a letter recently from them that they are no longer in the leasing business, and we were told we either need to purchase them or give them back. We can't give them back, then we have no buses. We discussed this amongst the Parks and Rec Commission. They unanimously approved us purchasing the buses. Ralph Casey has gone through them to make sure they're all in decent shape. One is a 2005, and we have 2 2008 buses. Ralph has verified they're good shape. And the price, the total cost of all 3 is just under $12,000. And so we think that we'd like to move forward with we don't have to purchase them right now. We have to just give our intent to the Greater Haven Transit District as to whether or not we intend to purchase them or give them back. I think the new price for, I think we have in our 5-year plan, it's about $80,000. $80,000
To buy them new.
to buy new. So we can get 3 that we can use still for a couple of years at least anyway for $12,000.
So what, I'm so sorry, so they were saying that the lease is up, do we have a contract with them, or how is it?
They're not leasing anymore. They're just getting out of the business of leasing them.
But did we have a contract, or we didn't?
Yeah, what was a lease? Yeah, there's a lease agreement. It's a lease, but we take. It's almost like we take ownership on them. We have to maintain them. We have to insure them.
Right.
All that. But it's still under the name of Greater New Haven Transit District. And
But I mean, when is the lease up? I mean,
Well, the Federal
only
Transportation
because- okay.
Authority, which funds these buses,
Okay.
has told the transit district that they're not going to be funding them anymore.
Okay.
So either get your towns to return the buses
Right.
or to buy them. And so it's not even a decision of the New Haven Transit Authority. It's a federal government
Yeah.
decision because these buses were bought with federal money.
Correct.
Now, what I suggested to Rick and his commission is that if these buses are in decent shape and reliable, and I know they use them a lot, we've Carl and I have been working on an issue with that, that they at least, we have to give them an intent by the end of this month, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, but to put it into his capital budget that we're gonna be working on this fall.
Right.
And then we can actually approve the appropriation in our next budget year. It won't even affect the 2015 budget year, which we're in now.
To do the 12,000?
Yes.
Okay,
Do the
so
12.
I have another question. So is there a possibility just to explore another lease option with somebody else, or we just want to go this option? Is it better? Because you said it only lasts a few years. I'm just thinking,
Yeah, well, I think we're gonna explore what other options are in the future, because like I said, we have an $80,000 amount in our 5-year capital plan. I think it might be 2 or 3 years out. And when we get to that point, we're gonna look and see if there's some other state money or some other grant sources, but the Greater New Haven Transit District is not anymore. The way it used to work with them is that we paid about $15,000 administrative costs, and they paid the rest. So if it's 80,000, they paid whatever the math is, 65,000 or something.
that was to lease, right? Or to own?
It's a lease.
To lease.
It's a lease, but they would purchase the buses and lease them to us.
Yeah.
You know, we only paid the 12 or 15,000. And so we will look into whether the sources, when we're at the point to replace one of these buses, probably the 2005 we will replace in 2 or 3 years. But I don't have the breakdown right in front of me. I mean, Terry may have it, but I think that bus, for example, 2005, they're asking like, I don't know, $2,200 or $2,000, something like that. for it.
$3,200.
3,200, yeah, so individually, they're all around, okay, yeah, 32, 4, and 4,100, yeah. So it comes in to, 11,000 and change, it's under $12,000. But
What are our current lease payments?
we just pay it once. When we, in 2005, when we got that 2005 bus, we paid the $12,000. and that
Okay,
was it.
so we actually don't have a lease payment, it's part of a transaction where we pay something up front. So
Correct.
between now
Exactly
and
right.
2015, we will not pay any money.
That's
Correct.
exactly right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's,
It's a one-time.
I was thinking we were paying them
I thought it was
$1,000 a
lease
month, you know.
contract.
just-
No, that's right.
Okay,
So it's called the lease, but it's almost like we purchase it in a sense. We don't own it, but we have total control over it, use of it, and everything. We insure it and do all the maintenance on it. But anyway, the bottom line is that for the fact that they were all in good shape, and for $12,000, which to Joe's point, that's the commission did approve in next year's capital budget, we would put it in.
I got it.
That we would ask for that money to do that. And the Greater New Haven Transit District just needs to know what our intent is. Do we plan on buying them, or do we want to give them back?
Okay. So we're already dealing with the maintenance and the insurance
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
so,
There's really no change for us.
okay, just the additional, okay.
Terry, you want to comment on anything?
I just did a little bit of mileage checking, and these 3 buses alone, just this fiscal year from July through April, have been driven almost 28,000 miles.
Combined or each?
The 3 buses together, about
That's not bad.
28,000 miles.
That's
So,
not
I
bad.
mean, we
It's
do
not really
use them
not.
a lot.
No, we do, but I mean, it's not, yeah, it's local driving.
Yeah, it's not like they have hundreds of thousands.
Well, I was
of
gonna
miles.
say, it's more, I'm
About
sure it's
28
hours you're putting on them more than miles,
Yeah.
meaning,
Didn't we have some restrictions on the use when we were in the lease agreement?
Correct. Yeah, it could be used only for senior citizens or disabled. Now, that restriction could go away. We could
Yeah.
use it for camps or, other things if we want to. Or with the things that Veronica was talking about, they're asking for a shuttle bus for the May 31st, two buses they need that day, and they need one on June 8th. So there are other things we do use them for sometimes.
So
but-
there'll be more flexibility
Yeah.
in the future
Right.
than we've had in the past.
We have
That'll
to
be one
stay
of the
within the
benefits.
state also. Under the Greater New Haven rules, we have to stay within the state.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
but under ours, if there was like a trip that was just over the line in Massachusetts and we own them, we could, use that instead of getting a motor coach, which
Yeah.
is less
should
expensive.
save money, yeah.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we endorse the purchase of these and consider it as part of the 2015-16 budget. If we're all here, it sounds like a pretty logical thing to do.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
both.
Thanks.
Item 6, Assessor Ed Karpinski and in-house counsel Pam Millman. 6.1, discuss and take possible action on the fee proposal for appraisal Albert Frankie of advisor for the appraisal work for tax appeals for 2013 revaluation. Good morning.
Morning.
Okay. Who would like to start?
Okay. We're coming up to a normal part of the cycle where we have to have an appraiser in regards to assessment appeals. Mr. Frankie has submitted a proposal. As background, Mr. Frankie has done our appraisal work on the 2002, 2007 revaluation. He is a gentleman well qualified and well respected in the appraisal profession and also by many of the plaintiff's attorneys. His proposal, I believe, is, and I'm sure Pam will get into more detail, very reasonable in regards to his rates and also very competitive in regards to his rates.
You want me to? Okay. So,
Before you go into, the numbers that were on this sheet, are these Guilford's numbers?
Correct.
Okay, I didn't know whether he provided them or you
No, I
provided. Okay.
generated that
Okay.
report. Yeah.
so by way of background, we could have gone out for RFQ for these services. But I consulted with Chuck Anders, who had been doing some of the tax appeals from the last reval. And, you know, he spoke candidly with me about the qualifications of Al and his experience with Guilford, and really kind of the balancing role that he takes with Ed and then the opponents on the cases. So he thought it would be very valuable. It was his recommendation to perhaps have the board consider waiving an RFQ process and consider a proposal from Al directly. So I asked Al to prepare a proposal, and I was interested in, you know, a fixed fee option. So you see in your papers, if you go to the second page of the proposal, this is just for the residential properties. He's offered 3 choices: Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. And Plan C is an hourly rate. There's some fixed fee, and you'll see all these various entries, which are all the steps it would take to complete an appeal, and his work involved in that. So I also asked Chuck to recommend, you know, which plan looked, based on his experience and how he uses Al, you know, what plan did he recommend? And he immediately thought that Plan C would be the least cost effective, which is really an hourly rate. There is some fixed fee component to certain steps, but so if you end up agreeing with that, then you're looking at Plan A and Plan B. And he was basically saying that either one of those, in his mind, were a good offer, a good fee proposal. One thing for you to consider is 2 of the cases from the 2007 reval went to trial. Right?
That is correct.
2 out of
154 total.
154. So the last 3 steps in Plan B are if you went to trial. And Chuck, estimated that the cost of Al's services in that situation, in those last 3 steps, you know, could range $4,000 to $6,000. You know, these are ballpark estimates, but you know, that's, so if you're thinking, well, you only 2 went to trial last reval, I mean, that's no guarantee of what will go to trial this year or this reval, but that is just for you to consider. And then if you turn the next page, you'll see on the commercial property, because it's more complex, the fixed fee arrangements are higher, but basically the analysis is the same. And the other component of this is, in order for Al to propose the fixed fee, a condition of that was, well, initially, he wanted to be paid upfront, the fixed fee amount for all cases upfront,
Yeah.
prior to, handling the matters. The best I was able to negotiate with him is that they would spread that over 4 quarters, but you would be paying in advance, so.
But definitely that he's getting, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but he's definitely getting them. It's not like it'll settle prior to gets to him or something.
I mean, the point is, I think that, some get withdrawn, and
That's what I mean.
and Ed can speak to that. Actually, why don't you give her, do you have that number from
Yep.
last revow?
For the last reval, again, the 2007 to 2012 grand list period, there was 154 court cases that were filed. 1.3%, 2 cases actually went before a judge for decision. Approximately 9% of the cases were withdrawn prior to, well, I'm not going to say no action, but probably very little or insignificant action either by the town attorney or by Al. And when I say insignificant action, on every appeal, there is a general meeting with the town attorney to go over the legal aspects. There's a meeting with Al to go over his very preliminary opinion of value. And we basically set kind of a procedure or a step that will follow after that analysis. Sometime after that analysis, we get these withdrawals. Why are they withdrawn? There could be a number of reasons. One, the plaintiffs finally get an appraiser, and the appraiser says, I can't produce a lower number than what the town has. Or the appraiser might say, well, the town is too low. My appraiser would come in significantly higher. So there could be a variety of reasons why the withdrawal, but
Yeah.
again, approximately 9% have been withdrawn.
Can't you work out an agreement with him that says, listen, we'll pay you X dollars for that conversation up till withdrawals? Because it's his time to come in and prep and meet. And then assuming it goes forward, then you get your flat fee. We're taking a chance that the case could settle earlier, vice versa. So, I mean, he's still,
I think the only difficulty with that
Yeah.
is the withdrawals are not necessarily all, let's say, immediate.
okay.
Something is filed and you may get a withdrawal a couple of months later, you may get a withdrawal 6 months later, you may get a withdrawal a year later.
Oh, all right.
So there's no way for Al to gauge exactly how much time
Right.
he may have invested in each of these.
I see.
And plus, we're looking
Okay, I
at
see. I didn't,
almost 90% was stipulated pre-trial.
right.
Correct.
Which meant, to me, please correct me if I'm wrong here, which means to me, he had to do all of his work
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
to get to that point.
Even on the withdrawal.
Even on the withdrawal,
Right.
yes.
Well,
And that's the nature of the fixed fee, that,
Yeah.
that you're gonna have some winners, some losers, but,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was like a situation where it
No,
comes in and it gets withdrawn immediately, and then he hasn't
Unfortunately
really
not.
done that much.
Unfortunately not.
Okay, no, that's, okay.
Wish they would.
Ed, can you explain what's the 12-117A and the 12-119?
There's 2 different ways to appeal an assessment. 12-117A is the more typical route. That's where someone has gone to the Board of Assessment Appeals, did not like the decision, and then went to Superior Court. 12-119 is, well, it's what I affectionately call the crazy assessor assessment.
What'd you say?
What'd you say?
Crazy assessor
I
assessment.
thought you said that.
It's 12-119 basically says the assessor acted with malfeasance or misfeasance of office,
Meaning you.
meaning me.
Okay.
Okay.
You're a bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there is no requirement that they go to the BAA before on the 12-119. They can
So
go
they
directly to court.
decided not to go before the Board of Assessment?
Not necessarily. There are some attorneys that file their appeals contain both components.
Okay.
Okay. We probably, anecdotally, I would say maybe there was 1 or 2 cases that were, it was strictly a 12-119. That is, they did not go to the BAA. They claimed that everything I did was manifestly excessive and unlawful.
Okay.
It's a much higher standard for them to meet. That's why they generally do not use it.
Based on what's happened with the Board of Assessment Appeals so far, do you have any gut feel for what the level of appeals is going to be?
And maybe we don't want to get into too much
Okay.
detail.
Yeah,
You know, I
yeah,
think-
it's difficult to predict the future, and I can tell you right now, as of 8:30 this morning, there were 26 cases, appeals filed.
Let me just ask our lawyer here. Is it so sensitive that we might need an executive session to go into further discussion?
No, because I don't think that there's a valid executive session
Okay.
But you don't want to
component
speculate
here.
on things.
It's not like we're...
Right.
So I think you can, if you need more time to consider the 3 plans, we could
Can we have a little more, I mean, what's the, is there a, and I didn't know what the time frame was in this conversation. with spending
probably.
money.
It's probably not exceptionally
again in 2
time
weeks.
sensitive, but the sooner we can get all our people together, the sooner we can start to
Maybe we
act
meet
on
3
these.
weeks from now, so. I have another question. What was the percentage of, maybe you said this already, of homes that people appealed in one form or another overall? 10% from the last assessment, I'm sorry.
The percent of
People
appeals?
that appealed their tax, you know, that either raised it at the committee
Total
level
appeals.
or.
Well, again, the total appeals, again, court
I have the
court
number.
appeals were 154.
I know, I'm just
Yeah.
looking for the percentage. Do you have a
You
percentage?
mean out of all the real estate accounts?
Yeah.
About 8,000, 9,000?
Well, we're approximately 11,000 accounts,
Yeah.
so it would be 154 divided by 11,000.
But these are just what went to court, right? Or
That
this-
is correct.
But how about that appealed to the committee, you know, to the.
To the Board of Assessment Appeals.
Yeah.
There were approximately 263 appeals this year to the Board of Assessment Appeals.
And how many were there last time? Because there was some
I
last.
did not do that number.
I'm sorry, what was the number that went to Board of Assessment Appeals?
Approximately 263.
And to this point, I have 26
That is correct,
As of
as of
taken.
8:30, yeah.
legal actions, so 10% of what went to the Board of Assessment Appeals,
So far.
roughly, so far.
Yeah.
Yes. And they have until June?
June 3rd, I
June
believe.
3rd, okay, which is coming up.
Correct.
Okay. Did you get your question answered, Tim?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. I was just thinking if it was less now.
I would have no problem if this board wants to digest this a little further in tabling this for the next meeting.
Okay, I'll move to table to the next meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
And thank you for this chart.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
We'll
look
have
at
to
my phone.
drag you back here for next meeting.
Okay.
It just seems like that I would like some more time to
Yeah.
deal with it.
And I like charts,
Do
so
you have any
this is good.
sense of the resolution from the Board of Assessment Appeals? I mean, I realize that people can do something and they can walk away, but did the Board of Assessment Appeals resolve a number of them?
I can produce a report for you.
Okay, that would be helpful.
2%.
Sure.
I presume some were apparently
But
resolved.
even if the board did reduce, that doesn't necessarily mean the people were not.
It doesn't mean there won't be an
forward.
appeal,
Right,
but I just
Sure.
I was trying to get it later.
get a sense of whether some of the people appeared to be resolved, or felt resolved, or got some satisfaction.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Pam. 7, discuss and take possible action to set a public hearing date of Monday, June 16th, at year 2014, at 8:30 a.m. to consider programs that should be included in the 2014 Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Act program. Just you remember, this is where we have the nonprofits come in and ask the town to endorse their program, so any contributions made to them would be considered as a deduction or credit on state income tax returns.
So moved.
Second. All motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that'd be before our regular meeting, it looks like. Okay, item 8, consider and take possible action on a proclamation declaring June 22nd, 2014, a Simeon Leet Day in the town of Guilford. You have the proclamation. Is
So moved.
there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Appointments and resignations is just really 2 appointments, 9.1. I need a motion to remove from the table, and we can do this in one motion, and take possible action to appoint Sam Tuttle as an alternate to the Guilford Lakes Golf Course Commission to fill a vacancy for a term to expire September 30th, 2014. I did meet with Mr. Tuttle, and I was impressed that he could make a nice contribution to that commission.
Second, did you make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. 9.2, act on a recommendation to appoint Lisa Copps as an alternate to the Youth and Family Service Board to fill a vacancy for a term to expire September 30th, 2014. I met with Ms. Copps and was very impressed with her, and I would move for her appointment.
Second.
Point, just a point.
Yeah.
This is only for 3 months. I hope, I guess she has the option of serving for 3 months and applying for.
She'll come back again, yeah, okay.
I would not be uncomfortable if we could do it, just appointing her till
But does she want, I mean,
4
not that
years
she
out.
doesn't want to, but.
And maybe she doesn't want to. Let's leave it
Let's
this way.
do it
She can
that
come
way.
back. We
Okay.
won't have to go through the interview process again.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Request for the use of town property. We have items 10.1 to 10.4. Karen?
I would move that we approve the 2 uses and 3 signs as proposed in the agenda, although I do have a question on the Connecticut Forest and Parks. There is no individual attached to the application. Then don't we usually have an individual to contact? You know who it is, okay. All right. Then I would move the 2 uses and 3 signs as proposed in the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for that, Trace, Gary. 11.1, we have 2 correspondence, usual. Building officials' monthly report, and you can see we're keeping them quite busy. It also seems from the financial report, they're contributing to our revenue. And the item 11.2, Public Works.
I just would like to say, as far as Public Works, I'm very appreciative of the work they did, moving the stone and preparing the site.
Did a good job.
I thought I was going to have to hire a landscape person to go down and plant grass and everything. I went there the next day, it was all done. They did a wonderful job.
I think when I first got on the Board of Finance, many, many years ago, and I was told by then First Selectman Lynch, what a great public works department we have and how much we save. And I think every First Selectman, including you, since then, has felt the same way, myself included. So
I would just add to that because of the, noted on here is the installation of the scoreboard on Nut Plains for Park and Rec, and they were just very cooperative, very easy to work with, and so.
And the other thing I want to add is that they have a tremendous amount of what we call regular work with spring cleanup to do and pothole patching, which we're getting to. I know there's been some concerns as to when we're going to get to a certain street. We've got so many because of the terrible winter we had, that they're continuing to do that, plus all of the work for the 375th committee, and the banners that get stolen and have to replace and that sort of thing, and plus, what you alluded to with the stone, so, okay. Gary?
Yeah, let me also, because I get a complaint, we probably all do, well, the Public Works guys are sitting on the side of the road drinking coffee. Well, they're entitled to a coffee break, they're
Yeah.
entitled to lunch.
Right.
And sometimes they just take it on the site and they sit there and they have their
Perception
lunch
rather than reality.
as opposed to driving, spending 20 minutes to
Coming
drive back
back,
to
yeah.
headquarters to have their
Very
lunch
good
to
point.
drive back out.
Very good
So I just, ask for an understanding for the general population that they are entitled to a break. And it's a safety issue as well as a union negotiated issue, so it's not like they're goofing off because they take their required break.
Thank you for bringing that up. Any committee reports? We had a pretty extensive one for 375. So. Old business, I have none. I'm going to remind the board, whoever would like to serve on that subcommittee regarding a naming policy, again, please let me know. On the new business, Monday, May 26th, a week from today, is our annual Memorial Day Parade, which is sponsored by the VFW and the American Legion Post in town. There is a change this year. We will start from the cemetery. We're not going to have a round trip anymore, at least not for this year. So the parade will step off at 10 a.m. at Alderbrook Cemetery and then march up to the town green. There's going to be a small ceremony, like we usually have at Alderbrook, and then another ceremony on the green. But again, we'll all be...
We'll start there.
We'll start there, and if we want to arrange to carpool down there, we can do that, okay? But just a note to the public also, that the parade will start at the cemetery this year and march up Boston Street to the town green.
Glad you mentioned that.
Okay.
We all would have been
We'd
hanging
been all
around
over
in
the
the
place,
parking lot looking for the parade.
I know.
In deference to our senior citizens.
Yeah.
Makes it much easier.
Wait a minute, is it because this board is 8? No, I'm kidding.
You sure you want to get into that? Okay.
Listen, I love my seniors. I love my seniors.
Okay, public forum, limited to 2 minutes regarding any item. I don't see anybody wishing to address the board. All right, we'll move on to item 16 and 17. We have 2 issues that will require an executive session. And I'm going to, before I read the 2 issues, I'm going to invite our town attorney, Michael Dorney, our finance director, Sheila Volano, our HR director, Mitch Gobat, our fire chief, Charles Hershaft. That's item 16, discuss and take possible action on a contract with the National Association of Government Employees, Local R1-137, dispatchers for the 2012-2015. And I motion for that. And item 17, consider and take possible action on donated sick time for an employee, and will include all of those individuals in the 2 executive sessions.
So I'll move executive session for the 2 items as described.
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Move executive session for the 2 items.
Oh, okay,
described.
thank you. Made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Mike will be coming back for a vote, okay?
Move we come out of executive session?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I need a motion to approve the contract with the National Association of Government Employees, Local R1-137, dispatchers for the contract years 2012 to 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Is there anything else to come before the board?
Yep, move that
Go ahead.
we, I'm trying to think how to phrase it. Allow the sick time to be donated to the employee in the National Association of Government Employees unit for fellow employees pursuant to our policy,
Okay, as requested.
as requested.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any other business to come before the board? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned at 10:25. Thank you all. Don't forget Monday,
Okay.
okay? That's what we got going on this week? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.